This is Anthony Pascal.
And this is Laurie Elster, and this is the All Access Star Trek podcast. This week we are reviewing Starfleet Academy episode 103, and it's the first of the Latin titles to come in with Vitus Reflux. Here it comes. Expect an onslaught. In addition to our review, we also have a very sweet, good interview that Tony did with Oded Fehr that I enjoyed very much. And we have some news. Some news about bad awards that people don't want to get.
Well, it's not all. Star Trek Section 31 came out a year ago. It was not good. Fans didn't like it. Critics didn't like it. And it was the beginning and the end of streaming movies for Star Trek.
Oh.
But it did some things right. And it has gotten a few nominations from guilds and such. Last week, Tunde got a nomination for his directing from the Image Awards, and there was also a nomination for the sound editing, which also from the Sound Editors Guild, which also the same group got an Emmy nomination, actually. And there's been a few other guild things, but this week, the big news.
The Razzies. The Razzie nominations are out. I think most people know what those are, but it's basically just a worst of, and they do the nominations, I think, a day or two before the Oscar nominations, and then they announce the winners the day before the Oscars.
It's the Golden Raspberry Awards. It's existed for about 40-something years. I mean, it's certainly not a prestigious group like the Academy. Anyone could become a Razzie voter. You just join. It's mostly critics and, film buffs and the like. Some people would say it's just a bunch of mean-spirited cranks who like to poke fun at the industry, but it definitely could be seen as mean-spirited, and it probably is in a funny way, but it's also, I think there are certain celebrities who are really big and successful who like to point out that they got Razzies. That's true. Most don't. There are a few people who have been nominated for a Razzie and an Oscar in the same year. And now Michelle Yeoh, she's an Oscar winner and Razzie nominee. Not for the same performance, obviously. So there were 5 nominations, if you want to call them that. Worst Picture, Worst Screenplay, Worst Director, Worst Actress, and Worst Supporting Actress, which would be Casey Roll.
Yes.
Yeah. None of the guys got nominated, so there was no worst actor or worst supporting actor, interestingly. Surprisingly, this isn't the most Razzie nominations of a Star Trek movie, and we can guess which movie it was. That's Star Trek V, and Shatner has also got a nomination for Generations.
There are much worse Star Trek movies than Star Trek V.
Depends.
You and I have disagree on certain
we can disagree
things.
on that. But obviously people had another chance to pile on Section 31. And I won't defend that movie. I wrote a whole thing about what a colossal failure it was. Anyway, so there's a few little Academy things. Firstly, the soundtrack is out digitally. We have an article. There's a cool video of Rufus Wainwright doing his cover of San Francisco.
I like that they commissioned, that they hired him to come in and do it. I'm all for experimenting with covers and doing interesting things. I am surprised that they did that, but good for them.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing some different stuff. I mean, this, like the show itself, this isn't Discovery Season 6. This week's episode, they're definitely, Russo's still in charge of the music, but they're doing all sorts of different, there's a lot of just original but modern music.
That beautiful music for the youngins. Yeah,
exactly. So they're doing some different stuff with the music. I don't always agree with it, but they're trying some new stuff. And we did a kind of roundup of how the show did with critics. It did pretty well with critics.
It's mostly getting good reviews from the big mainstream outlets.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes is a funny way to measure things because it's just kind of yes, no. And so it's got like an 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. But when you go through them, it's not like there's these glowing reviews, although some of them, like Variety and stuff, are pretty glowing. but they're generally fairly positive or at least hopeful. And especially when you look at what they call the top reviews, which are the likes of, Variety, LA Times, San Francisco, which is interesting because those are just mainstream. It also got positive reviews from the likes of Collider and other kind of entertainment sites, and all the Trek sites. So I'm surprised. It got better reviews than Discovery Season 1, Picard Season 1, but not as good as Strange New Worlds Season 1. If we're comparing live action new Star Trek series,
right,
for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think that when they announced a new Star Trek series all those years ago, I think this is kind of what, I don't think anyone thought they'd be getting Starfleet Academy, but I think tonally this is kind of what they thought they might be getting.
Yeah.
And then they didn't.
Now, the article we did on the kind of review roundup, it notes that there's no real metrics on how well it's doing. The free version on YouTube got over 100,000 views, which is probably not that great, to be perfectly honest. We don't know how well it did on Pluto. It briefly showed up in the top 10 on Paramount. It's actually doing better on Amazon when you look at the Amazon top 10, because you could subscribe to Paramount Plus through Amazon, but it's beating other bigger shows, which is curious. But really, it's going to take us roughly a month until the Nielsen, streaming charts come out, and we'll see if it, where Strange New Worlds and Picard have all shown up on those charts. And, famously, season 3 of Strange New Worlds came in strong and then just fell off a cliff, basically. Right. So we'll see what happens with this show. My bet is it does at least start on the top 10. And if it doesn't, that will be noteworthy.
I think it's gotten a lot of mainstream attention too.
Yeah.
Well, it's gotten some shitty mainstream attention.
Yeah, I mean, so the show was getting political attention before it even arrived. There's certain groups out there that basically many conservative commentators just decided the show is bad based on trailers and stuff, and they throw out words like DEI and woke, and they mock.
I was going to say based on trailers, but based on maybe seeing some black people in the trailers,
right, or gay people or whatever,
or anyone with brown skin. Like, these are the things that these people immediately, it tells them bad.
But what surprised me, and we weren't going to cover this until I saw a segment on Fox News that was covered this, that was so...
Oh, that one was...
hateful.
Yes.
And mean-spirited and ugly and bigoted that I couldn't believe it was on TV.
I only made it halfway through. And then I was like, I want to know this crap that people, but I can't even listen to more of this.
Yeah. And this all, basically Elon Musk and a Trump advisor, and it just kind of, and then it turned into review bombing. And, the thing is, like, you and I, and this week is not my favorite episode. There are things to talk about on the show, but the fact that there aren't enough hot blonde ladies on the show, and the fact that there's too many overweight lesbians on the show is not critical commentary. That's like just ugly, horrible, terrible. I can't believe this is 2026 and people think they can talk like this on TV, but I guess they can.
They can, and it's popular. That's the gross part, is like it was on a popular show. Yeah. So it was gross.
Whoopi Goldberg weighed in this week. I mean, CNN has covered it. It's kind of become this, MS Now, the former MSNBC. So the kind of politics around the launch of the show has become its own thing. I don't know what that's doing to the numbers. I mean, is it bringing people in or pushing people away, or both?
My assumption and hope is that it's pushing the bad people away and bringing the good people in, because the good people are like, Stephen Miller hates it, I'm going to go watch that. And then the bad people are like, Elon Musk doesn't like it, I'm not going to watch it. I'm like, good, you people stay away, and then the other people can come and join us.
Yeah.
The people who aren't bigots and racists and mean-spirited jerks and homophobes. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen some comments on especially Twitter, that I'm like, did your mother raise you to say things like that? You know, I mean, it's just,
well,
would
Twitter
you say that?
Especially is where you find the worst of the worst, although Facebook gives it a run for its money.
Yeah. But they're almost like, I've seen people jump in and say, I'm only here to read the comments. And you realize there's now a sport in how ugly and mean you could be in your commentary because because it becomes a form of entertainment itself. So there's, where most of these people haven't even seen the show. They've just seen a picture or something like that. And they just want to join in the fun, I guess. Anyway, it did not give enough oxygen for those people. Criticize the show, but watch it and criticize the show, please.
Right.
Like find something really to talk about, and which we should do now. We should talk about Vitus Reflux, which is the third episode, and it's another bottle show-ish. It's another grounded show. It's another setup show. They're still building these characters. So the ship landed in the first episode and hasn't taken off yet. I think this was like an okay episode. There's some things I like about it, but I didn't love this episode, I would have to say.
Yeah, I agree. So I've seen more episodes than you have. This is my least favorite of the 6 that I've seen. But I will say, and this is an annoying choice of words, it is planting seeds. Get it? Because of the plant that they do.
Yes.
But anyway, it is planting seeds that will later pay off, bear fruit, as they might say. However, I felt that this dragged a little for me because of the whole rivalry thing, because I found that sort of typical. It's such a typical story, and I've never been interested in that kind of typical youth story of like sports competition and a rivalry and pranks is not my particular thing. But I will say that I liked it less the first time I saw it than I did on subsequent viewings, because as always, as I'm learning with the show, if you pay attention, there's more stuff in there that is philosophical, that is interesting, that catches your eye. There's a lot more going on than just the main story.
I think this is an episode of shortcuts. They want us to know these characters better and care about them for when things happen later and they're in some real jeopardy, because there's no real stakes here. Like, do they get on the team or not? Is kind of,
yeah. And do they win? We don't care, and
right.
All that stuff we don't care about.
It doesn't feel like they've got enough time to give us a whole Durham episode and a whole Genesis episode and a whole before they go off, I assume, and do some stuff later. So they try to quickly give us something on pretty much everyone, especially the cadets. This is a very cadet-focused episode. It's a very YA episode, let's face it, in general.
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be a kind of a Durham episode because he bookends it beginning and end with his personal log, except it's a personal letter or
what's his crappy parents? He's writing to his parents and they're not answering him.
Yeah, that was quite
Smart.
He's the overachiever guy whose parents basically push him but give him no support, and he learns that lesson. And he also learns the lesson. This is very relatable, I think, for anyone who's been to school, which is everyone, but certainly college. I remember in the first week of Berkeley, some teacher said, look around, you're all used to being the smartest kids. You aren't anymore. You're now surrounded by the smartest kids, and you're quite possibly the dumbest kid now.
Oh, nobody said that to me. Maybe I was the smartest kid. That's my conclusion.
And Durham certainly faced that when he ran into Genesis, obviously, who is just as motivated as he is and clearly smarter than he is.
Definitely smarter than he is, and more emotionally intelligent, and more strategic, and more thoughtful.
Right. I mean, I'm now she has these like minor daddy issues, which, but compared to him and, everyone else's issues, I am a little worried she's a little too perfect, a little too Miss Perfect, where she kind of can do no wrong, but we'll see where that goes.
We'll see. Right now I'm digging her in a big way. She's so a captain in the making. She's got all the qualities of a captain in the making.
But, we like Darum now more. We can empathize with him. He learned a lesson. He was self-reflective. Jet Reno was fantastic in this episode. She wasn't just comic relief, although she was. She's teaching lessons to these kids. And she had a very important lesson for him. And then I think he could also learn by example, because he got to see the key lesson was, do you support each other? And how did she put it? Like, do people show up for you? Right. And we saw her show up for, who saw this coming? Reno and Thok.
Right.
Yes. the ultimate power
great.
couple.
That was such a great moment. I was like, they're a couple. That's awesome, because this episode helps you understand, one, why Reno is a good teacher and wanted to be a teacher. Yeah. Because that didn't seem to be something that I would have maybe thought she was interested in. But so you get that because she's trying to help Darum out. But then also she's there for love.
And they seem to make it work in their own special way. Now that you've talked about this. So in the last episode, we saw them together having some banter. And now you look back and you go, oh, that's couple banter.
Yep.
It all adds up a little bit more.
I can't wait to see their quarters. I hope we get to see their quarters at some point.
I think that was inspired. We also learned a lot about Thok. We've asked, why is she the way she is? And she's actually a graduate of the War College, which makes 100% sense. But she also believes in Captain Ake. And you almost get a sense now that all her talk about maggots and screaming at people is a bit of a show she's putting on, because underneath it all, she believes in Starfleet's mission of peace and exploration. And she doesn't want them to be bloodthirsty warriors who want to kill all the time. She actually believes in what Ake is trying to do.
Yes.
Which is turn them into old school Starfleet officers instead of what Kelrick wants to do and did perfectly well for years, which is churn out soldiers, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is what Starfleet and the Federation needed. And that's the core of this. And what raises it above the Hogwarts analogy is that the rivalry is all about these two governing philosophies, as it were.
Right. Right. And I think the first time I watched it, I was just put off, honestly, by the rivalry and by the sports thing. Like, look, I am Caleb. I'm not a team guy. I don't like sports. I never cared about those things. If you say you got to beat them, I don't care. Those things never motivated me, and I was indifferent to them. So when I paid more attention on subsequent viewings to what was going on underneath all that, you realize, oh, it's actually all there for a reason, to make a point. And in this episode, I put a lot of my notes into categories, like what worked, what didn't, things like that. And the largest category that I have in my notes this week, character stuff, performance. So this was all about teaching us things about the people, giving them all small moments. Everybody got little moments here and there that were funny or heartwarming or important.
Right. There is no plot, or there is, but it doesn't matter. The game itself, Calica, so they didn't do Parisi squares or some other Star Trek sport or basketball, although we did see a basketball a couple times, so that exists, or baseball, because I think they're making the point that this is the kind of sport that exists in the 32nd century, which is essentially a combat simulation.
This was, I have a lot of thoughts on Calica. First of all, it seemed like a very trauma-inducing thing to throw a bunch of young people into. I know if you're like, they've been through so much, and that seemed really hardcore, first of all. Obviously it was, I guess, a war college game, but what was it? It's firing and there are fires. Like, couldn't they get hurt? I was very confused by the fact that there were these drones shooting things that would then catch fire.
So there's a question of, was the training like the game, which I did, maybe that was just Thok pushing them really hard. We really don't know what a real match is like, because they had to do the fake match in the atrium. So We haven't really seen a genuine game of Calica in how it's supposed to be played. Maybe it's not as violent as the training session was. We do know that they have these phasers, which transport you, which is a kind of a cool thing. We've seen stuff like that in Star Trek before, like phasers that you shoot at someone, and it, like in Insurrection, there was something like that. And in Picard, didn't Seven have a thing that did that?
I don't know, but I like that. I had no problem with the beaming phaser. I thought that was cool.
I suspect, I was like, that's an interesting thing. I wonder if they're going to use that. Like, because if you look within this episode, there were all these things that they were learning along the way that then came back later.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was smoke during the simulation, and then Genesis used smoke when she blew up the replicators. And so I'm wondering, are they also laying seeds, as you've said? Are they going to use things they learned playing this game in the real world? If they're on some planet and they're fighting some aliens, will they go, we could use those beaming phasers here? That would be, a particularly smart thing to do.
Very interesting weapon, a beaming phaser. I mean, I don't know how, it would have to be, again, it's one of those magical technology things because you'd have to preset it to where you're beaming people to. Like you'd have to have figured out some stuff in advance.
So have you read the book Ender's Game?
Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah, and there was a movie. Because there was an element of that, of like where you take kids and you put them in a school and you make them fight battles and you make them compete against each other.
They weren't actually running and dodging fire, were they? Wasn't it like video game kind of setup?
The battle school, it was not fire, but it was pretty hardcore.
I was very concerned about the fire and these kids. I was like, they're shooting fire at them.
Have you seen what the bridge of these ships look like? The rocks, the fire, they need to prepare them for that.
It seemed unsafe. I was concerned about the children.
In the end, I liked the game because of what it represented. Our core character, Caleb, because everyone has to learn a lesson. He had to learn teamwork and relying on people and not being a lone wolf and all of that. So they're kind of rushing through because these people were strangers to each other 2 weeks ago, or I guess 4 weeks ago, and they need to become a unit. Now, what doesn't make sense is why is Captain Aka, if you were just an average student, you'd go, why is she spending all this time with these 8 kids?
Yes.
It just seems a little unfair.
I think I just assume that other times she's with different groups of kids.
One would only hope.
That's my headcanon, is that Caleb he obviously spends a lot of time in her office, the two of them, and I really like that relationship that's building between the two of them. But I like to think that she also got together with other groups too. Yes,
but she definitely had a thing going on in this episode, where she was. I thought it was obvious. I mean, was it supposed to be obvious that she was dropping hints to the kids all throughout of like, here's what you should do.
Right.
Here's this plant. Here's this thing,
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it's obvious she wants them to fight the prank war.
Yes.
I hadn't put together the math of because they referenced a famous prank that was done where they beamed everyone to Alcatraz over 100 years ago. But obviously that was her, which was revealed later. Or no, it was over hundreds of years ago because it was when she was a cadet. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff happening off screen. If there was stakes to this episode, this was a very lighthearted episode, so it was kind of hard to say how serious these stakes were, but they kept on talking about this oversight committee that was coming. We never see them.
Right. It was like planets on Strange New Worlds and Discovery.
Yeah. I mean, I thought they could have had a little fun because we've seen these kind of episodes, in Star Trek where there's some kind of functionary who's coming and he's inspecting and you have to hide things from them. And, and so that could have been an opportunity. But something was mentioned a few times that the Academy is a, quote, experiment.
Yes.
So are there stakes here?
Those are the stakes. Definitely those are the stakes. But obviously that they didn't want to focus on that in a big way because they wanted to get into the individual moments for all the characters. And I think if they'd brought in some other character who's like inspecting everything, it just would have taken away from what they wanted to do.
I guess.
I think this episode, while it's my least favorite, I think is going to be successful for a lot of the audience, and especially the younger audience. And so it would have just been like stuffing in something else.
Yeah, there were areas where like Picardo wasn't in this, and it was a comedy episode, or not a comedy episode, but a lighthearted episode. So he would have been great, but they wanted the focus to be on the younger characters. And so that kind of makes sense that they put him on the bench.
A scene in sickbay would have been nice with some fire-related injuries.
Right. But if you're going to do a lighthearted episode, the kids aren't there yet. Some of them have more range than others, I would say. I think Carice is pretty funny.
Very funny. When they're like, look at them, and she's sitting there trying to lick one of the crystals that they're like, she's sticking her tongue out trying to touch it.
Yeah. But probably the funniest of the five isn't one of the five. It's the brother, Occam. Yeah. Which is someone we don't talk about. The actor's name is Romeo Carrere, and he was very funny in this episode. He ends up with the mascot costume. It's itchy. It's there was a lot of fun to be had with the mascot costumes that added a little silliness to the episode. But he is somewhat comic relief, which we already saw a little bit in episode 2, and there was more of that here.
Yeah, he was. I liked him in episode 2 going, bros making bros beds. He was so excited and happy. And,
they always have fun with the Klingon. He tells a joke, which was not funny, but that was the point.
Actually, it was funny. What is it doing in my soup? Screaming, I thought was very funny. And then also his descriptions of all the food that has blood in it. Like when he is just listing all the things. So I think he's funny in the same way Thok is funny, and in the same way Worf was funny, which is they don't know that they're funny.
I mean, the irony is he's nonviolent. So the one person who didn't join the team
doesn't have to play
was the Klingon. But he loves things with blood in it. And he did join in. Maybe the best part of this episode is when they switched tones and it became Ocean's 11, basically, for a brief period. Right. And you have Genesis being in charge and kind of putting the heist together to break into the war college. And
the reverse heist. Isn't that what you call? I think you called it a reverse heist.
Well, yeah, because they were,
which I like that.
They were putting something in instead of taking something out.
Exactly.
But they had to break into a vault, essentially, which was the office, and they had to get his eyeball. And so it was funny, and, but it showed teamwork, and it went off without a hitch until Tarima could sense.
Of course. I thought that was, that all flows. That all works. It's all on brand. Yeah.
I think a lot of people can relate to her because she's dealing with the fact of, which a lot of people do in your first year of college, of you're free, right? You have no more restrictions. And one of the reasons why she's at the war college is because she kind of likes the discipline of that, because she's kind of frightened by all the freedom that she has and losing control. And
by her own power. So her brother is loving the freedom that he has at Starfleet Academy, but he also doesn't have he doesn't need the discipline the same way that she does.
Yeah.
Like she's afraid of herself.
Yeah. And afraid of her her feelings for Caleb, because the thing on her neck keeps on turning red when he's around.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a cheat. If you know a girl likes you, she has a little thing on her neck. It's like, oh, I know you like me.
It's handy.
Yeah, it's a good character episode, but they're kind of shortcuts. And I think, but it just kept on swinging. The little YA meter just kept on swinging too far. And the contemporary meter, they just kept on saying things like dumpster fire, and it's just like
comment cards. I was like, they're going to know what a comment card is. Like, have you seen anybody with like a piece of paper and a pen?
Yeah. Now, so they always pair up writers. So the two writers for this, one of them used to be a kind of just the staff guy on Picard, so obviously a very young person, and then a more senior writer that the showrunner brought in when she worked on Nancy Drew was kind of, and I it feels like this episode was written and then someone Star Trek'd it up a little bit, but it was basically just a standard teen drama episode, and then they threw in some Star Trek stuff to try to make it more Star Trek.
I would say not just the trappings of Star Trek. I think they put in the philosophy of Star Trek.
That's true. But I feel like it could have used another Star Trek pass.
One more extra bit of, futurology added to it. But that's, we knew that this was, in a way, some of this episode is, and again, it's not bad, but this is what, if every episode was this, I wouldn't love the show, because it would be the show that we were worried it was going to be, which would be a YA show. Now, it could be a really good YA show, but this show's trying to be a little bit of everything. And so that meter is going to go back and forth episode to episode. I know there's an episode coming up that's very fan friendly. That's not necessarily YA. So it's not the big swings of Strange New Worlds, but this episode was a swing in of itself, I would say. It is, but I think it's more about they're trying to build up. This is what daily life is like. This is what normal life is like. They're trying to set a norm. They're trying to say, like, here's the standard, and then things are going to happen. And it's so early in the show's run that they kind of needed to establish. You go to class, you play sports, you do pranks. This is life. You laugh for far too long together.
I mean, certainly if we're going to judge this on season 1 yardsticks, and you think of season 1 of Next Gen, season 1 of DS9, season 1 of Voyager, the 3 episodes in, all of these series have had early on episodes where they're experimenting and doing stuff like that. It's harder when you have 10 episodes and you want them all to be winners, which we've dealt with Strange New Worlds, especially. There's a lot of stuff I loved about this episode, which I've, already talked about. And, we got a little bit of world building. We did learn. So a question that I had last week was sort of answered in, it does appear like the War College, at least the dorms, are not part of the ship. So, because we see them leaving the dorms, they're walking outside. So it is part of the campus. So there are scenes in this episode that are on the ship, and then there are scenes that are just around the campus, including all the stuff at the War College. The atrium is still the ship, but I think the gym is may or may not have even, maybe somewhere on campus that's not part of the ship.
Right, because so they talked about sharing facilities because they had to share the gym.
Yeah.
So the War College isn't on the ship at all, I guess.
No, it's in
San Francisco.
Yeah, or
in
the
not San Francisco.
It's in Marin County, but let's not go back over that ground. But it's there, it's close to where they landed the ship. I mean, we never get but it's an interesting thing. They never give us establishing shots of the campus, and you'd think they would.
Here's what I'm going to say: they don't give us establishing shots in general. It's the one thing that's driving me crazy about the show is that I feel like so many times, whether it's a room or a big place or a small place, I can't get a sense of the room, of where things are in relation to each other. It's just they don't like establishing shots, and I just want my basic traditional shots. Show me where everything is and then go crazy. But it's all like close-ups and, moves and things like that.
Yeah. The pacing of this episode was good. I do feel like that the music was a bit in your face in that, hey, this is supposed to be funny. Hey, this is supposed to be emotional. And sometimes I guess when something's not landing enough for me, it feels like the music's like telling me like, aren't you laughing now?
Right.
And if you're not, then it's a bit much. But that could just be me.
I think Discovery was guilty of that as well.
Yeah.
As I recall.
This was unlike the previous episodes. I felt like this wasn't very Easter eggy. I mean, there's little things, the Hura Pavilion and some other stuff.
There's a tardigrade mention. There's a couple of other things. A Gorn joke. And
Darum, the instrument he talks about as a genuine Bajoran instrument that, was mentioned on DS9. Now, through the whole episode, so the bullies, which they have to remind you of Take Me Out to the Holosuite. So we have a mean Vulcan picking fun on and it's a sports thing. So it's very much like Take Me Out to the Holosuite, where we had the annoying Vulcans who wanted to play baseball against the DS9 crew.
Yeah, it was, I have to say, I'm one of the tiny, tiny percentage of people who do not like that episode.
Okay. But it did remind me that just because kind of the lead War College bully was a Vulcan, but he was paired up with, and I think we on our Slack were like, is this what's going on here? Is it a Mintakan?
Yeah, John from our group thought it was a Mintakan, and I was like, oh, perfect, good call. I'm sure that's what it is, but it's not, is it?
No, she was a Romulan. A 37, because of course Romulans, do they have ridges? Do they not have ridges? It's the debates are endless. But I guess it made me think, they did something interesting here because they were thick as thieves, and it shows how Romulans and Vulcans used to clearly not get along, and in this century they've come together. They've formed Navarre, and these two were big mean bullies, but they showed how you can make it work in the future. These, this
Right.
Romulan and this Vulcan, they were together and they had a plan, and
they can be jerks together.
Exactly.
The moral of the story.
Yeah. Talaxian furfly was mentioned.
Yes, it was.
There's a lot of things that are non-visual Easter eggs on this show. A lot of things you have to listen for, because the furfly thing was one of the Stephen Colbert announcements. Maybe the best thing he did, it seems like a waste to have Stephen Colbert announce the score of the game. What?
And they had him doing the ad for Starfleet Academy, which I was confused by the ad anyway. But then the one thing that took me out of the episode was Ake saying, is the voiceover a little too stupid? And I'm like, that's just a joke about Stephen Colbert.
Yeah. I was wondering if they were trying to do an homage to Starship Troopers, because there was because in Starship Troopers, they had those kind of propaganda recruitment videos to join the federal forces. And it felt a lot like that.
I've never seen it, but I believe you.
Oh, okay. Well, fantastic movie.
Really? I would like it? I don't think so.
Well, because it works on many levels. So it's worth checking out for sure.
So one of the things I noticed with the kids from the War College is Kyle. Have you been noticing Kyle?
This was his first episode, or was he in another episode and we just didn't notice him before?
I think he was in a previous one, but this is first I noticed just the way he's just grinning at Jaden. When Jaden's trying to stall the three of them and he just can't, he's just grinning and smiling and wants more and would stay there and happily stare at him forever.
Yeah, at first you're like, oh, he's really into Jaden, but then was totally fascinated with the plants.
Yes, he was super into the plants, and he was not into the rivalry the same way the others.
No,
yeah.
Just a curious guy, I guess.
Oh no, I don't think that was just curious, Jaden.
But no, I think he's into Jaden. I think I think they're going to be a couple someday.
Just the way he was looking at him, just so enraptured. It was very cute. And yeah, he's everyone else is running around and screaming when the plants are going crazy, and he's just sort of grinning and looking at everything. I feel like he needs to switch schools.
Well, there are because the teams, the Calica teams are bigger than just the 5 cadets, and since Jaden isn't part of it, really the 4 of them, and so that they are these kind of randos that have to be in every scene. And there's this curly-haired guy that looks like he's photobombing all the time, and he just seems real. And I was thinking, it reminded me again. This is another movie which I'm not. So you've seen Galaxy Quest, right?
Once. Didn't like it. Oh, okay. Everybody's just going to kill me now.
It reminded me.
Everybody else loves.
Well, it just reminded me of the character Guy, except that this guy doesn't even have any lines, but he's just kind of the way he's smiling and just happy to be there.
Just so happy to be there. So happy to be there. Just thrilled to be along for the ride.
Yeah.
Christine will kill me in particular for not liking Galaxy Quest.
It's such a good movie. It's in the top 5 of Star Trek movies. It is a Star Trek movie. A lot of people think that way.
I think I just have a missing molecule somewhere because I'll have to watch it again. Anyway, and of course, in this episode, because it's focused on the young people. They got them all in their bathing suits and their towels. And they got them beamed out all over. And I was like, which is funny because it's like the week after you have these conservative jerks saying, you know, it's against hot people. They don't like hot people. And I'm like, this is a very hot group of people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you know, clearly when they hired Sandro, I mean, he's a good actor because he's shown range and stuff like that in the show. But, you know, when he takes it, he's jacked. That kid's
he's fully jacked.
Yeah, and they're all hot, you know, in their own. But it's weird, you know, it's weird because these are very young people, so I don't really want to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, that scene was very.
I'm not personally attracted to people that age at this point, just because that's like my son's age. It's too creepy,
right? They weren't rubbing gel on each other, at least, but yeah, they're all hot in their own special way.
Yes, and they were beamed to all different locations, with or without. In various states of dress and undress. And yeah, that was very purposeful. Made sense, of course.
Yeah, it was no different than you'll get on another TV show. So it didn't get into gratuitous, I don't think, but it was.
No, I don't think so either. And in fact, the way I test that is it equal gender wise? And it was.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like it's what you don't want is just women being objectified, which is the traditional way that a lot of shows do it. Yeah. But I will say that from the start, you know, original Star Trek may be famous for its babes, but if there was anyone who was being sexually exploited on that show, it was William Shatner, 100%. Yeah. Like he always had ripped shirts. He was always like using his wiles. Yeah. To get what he wanted the way that Charlie's Angels do. Like, come on. So that's just a nice tradition.
So you always ask me questions. I have a question for you. Do dots feel pain?
Because they say, ow. Yeah, I had that in my notes as well.
I have a feeling it was just a programmed response or something.
I think they program little responses in to make them. I think you might do that. Like if you had little robots like that, you'd give them names, you'd give them, and if you could give them little personalities, you probably would. Right.
I mean, they were not coaching the cadets, but they were helping with the workouts. They're more than just cleaning windows. You know, they interact, they talk in their own little way with their little squeaky voices.
Yeah.
I want more dots now. I used to not care about the dots, but now I'm like, what's going on with the dots? What's their life like?
I didn't want to go to a dot meeting.
Right. Do they have a union? Are they considering unionizing?
Yeah, I'm starting to want more of the dots after I also was not wanting more of them, and now I do.
Yeah. Like a good Star Trek, tradition. They did some ancient philosopher and stuff. So they're quoting Seneca on the walls, and they're talking about Sun Tzu. Who, man, that guy had a great PR agent, don't you think, Sun Tzu? Like how many centuries later, and they're still talking about this guy.
Yeah, well, said some interesting things.
Fair enough. I mean, what else is there to say about this episode? It's there, it's good, it's not perfect, but we know all of our characters a little bit better now.
We do. I have in my notes. I love Sam and how she responds so joyfully to everyone. Like she really does. Like they're all complaining. Like they beamed us out and they did this. And she's like, I took a bath for the first time.
Right. She always has she's always on a whole different level because of her, she's only 4 months old thing, or now she's 5 months old. It'll be interesting to see, like 5 months old is 25% older, so is it kind of like, I hate to use the term, but dog years, right? Like, is she going to grow older faster? Because when she's 6 months old, is she the equivalent of 25 years old?
Yeah, I don't think they have like a hyperspeed aging program for her. I think they just started her at that age. But will she age is a question. Like, is she 17 forever? Or will she do something like the doctor did? Like that's that there. I still have 1,000 questions about her. So many questions.
Now, she did the data thing here of calculating the odds, showing that she's, essentially a walking computer. But there are also superpowers during the game, and it was not fair because you can't shoot her if the bolts go straight through her. So they use the Air Bud rules of there's no rule against it, so it's fine, right? So there's no rule against a dog playing basketball, and there's no rule of a hologram playing Cali, but there should be.
But there isn't.
Now there is. One can dig into this and say, why is she taking showers and doing push-ups and doing any physical activity?
Yeah.
And,
so,
I mean, I have thoughts. What do you think?
I can't tell you what I think because I know the answer, but I will say those are really good questions to be asking.
To me, it feels like she was programmed to be a teenager, and so she's doing teenager things, and it's all part of her learning experience. In the same way that the Doctor tried dating and other things on Voyager, things that a hologram doesn't need to do necessarily.
Singing, acting.
She doesn't really need to go to the academy. Every lesson at the academy can just be downloaded into her matrix.
Right.
So I think it's all part of seeing what it's like to experience things and how that affects her program, which is her personality. So there is a logic to it, I assume. I would hope.
But it raises a lot of questions. And I still have some questions, and some of mine have been answered, but not all. But I just can't get enough of her no matter what.
Yeah. Now we can see why they hired her, because they changed the role because she's just so bubbly and fun that they're like, oh, we got to have her on the cast, and they created this Sam character. I'm curious because apparently there was a Sam character, but it was very different. I'd like to know more about what was 1.0 Sam.
Yeah.
But this is, I think it's working. So yeah, I mean, that's all I got. I think I'm good for this episode.
I did have a nitpick, which is, why does everything have to glow? Like the earbuds glow, like the things they their little headphones.
Oh, yeah,
and the jump rope was glowing. Why would the jump rope need to glow?
No reason.
I'm just annoyed by the glowing.
Yes. And what kind of egg was he eating in his little Rocky
weird
montage breakfast?
Yeah, that was a Rocky moment for sure. There's a movie I've seen.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I say something, I'm like, oh my God, Laurie's must have seen Rocky.
In fact, I remember seeing it in the theater when it came out and seeing those big letters coming across. It was a very big movie.
Of course.
My brother.
I mean, it's still, the whole Keonian thing does still, like, he's wearing his human skin, but we could still see scars. Like, why doesn't he, which are Keonian scars, so right. If you were to transform yourself from your Keonian self to your humans to a human, would you transfer the scar over? But apparently he does. So there's
a wound is a wound is a wound.
I guess.
We know he has more than one appendix.
Yes.
We got to keep tracking these things.
Indeed. Everyone
That's what I told him when I interviewed the cadets. I told George Hawkins that we do ability watches. So we're tracking his Keonian tricks.
He doesn't really have, we didn't learn any, Sam's the only one that showed new abilities. It was nothing like Saru every week had a new thing he could do.
Yep.
So we haven't gotten to that level yet.
I hope we do. I look forward to learning more.
Indeed. So I think we should switch to my interview with Oded Fehr, who isn't in this episode, actually. So I just kind of talked to him about being part of the show and the first 2 episodes, which he was a big part of those episodes.
It's a really good interview, and just listen to it. I've loved it. That's all I got.
Hey.
It's such a pleasure to meet you. We're always talking you up on our podcast and on our site.
Oh, my gosh. I appreciate that. That's very sweet of you.
Yeah. So we were very excited when you crossed over to the new show.
Yes. You can imagine. I was very excited myself.
So, well, that's it. I mean, it's a different show. So what did you see just on stage performing as the big difference, or was it just another day at work between working on Academy and working on Discovery?
No, I think the atmosphere of the show is very much, I live in Austin, Texas now. It's a college town. I love college towns. I love the optimism of students, the excitement of what's ahead and the future, what the future holds, I think this show is very much like that. I think this show is very much, Starfleet coming back post-burn to a time where we start exploring again. And the exploration is also what these kids are doing, exploring their new life and environment with their friends and everything that being in college means. And I think for me to play that character of Admiral Vance, who was so hard always and tough and so on, and now he's in a period where decision making is a little lighter, at least in the beginning, and it's great fun, and it feels like that on set. On set you're surrounded by all these very young actors who are all relatively in the beginning of their careers, and all amazing and all just happy and beautiful, so it's great fun.
Well, there's also a heaviness, particularly with Vance, I found, in that it reintroduced you as someone full of regret. So how did you feel about that? And did you talk to the, producers or Alex or anyone about how Vance has this weight on him that he's trying to kind of wrestle with, I guess?
Yes. I mean, listen, the wonderful thing about this character, and one of the reasons I loved it so much from the beginning in Discovery, is that he was always faced with making the best of bad decisions all the time. People got hurt all the time. It all depends on how many people got hurt in this decision. And so, his relationship with Captain Ake, of course, there's regret there. They've made mistakes that he feels that he was responsible for. But it's part of who Admiral Vance is, and why he is so determined and so wants this college and wants to change things and bring us back to what Starfleet was, why it's so important to start exploring again, to have a different way of dealing with our friends and neighbors, So I think it kind of is within the DNA of Admiral Vance, is this kind of optimism within regret,
Did because there's a little bit of a time gap between the shows. I think it's like 4 years or something. Do you know what Vance has been up to? Where's is he based in San Francisco? Is he he just kind of shows up every once in a while? Where's his?
No, I think Admiral
Vance.
I think Admiral Vance is still back in his, Federation headquarters, that big ship that he had. And, we don't get to see it because the new ship is so much more interesting. And the sets are just incredible, by the way. The sets for this college are it's just beyond. They're stunning. They're huge. They're just beautiful and gorgeous and so wonderful to work on. But, I think, time now is passing a little slower when you don't have to try and survive every day. Things move a little slower. I think it took him time to set up this Starfleet Academy again and be able to find the right way of coming to Ake and going to Captain Ake, asking her to become the Chancellor. I think he's trying to find in himself also the small changes that are going to start to be more optimistic, more a little lighter, a little funner.
Now you obviously
I don't know that that's a word, by the way, funner. I don't think it is.
I think it is. I mean, from your first scene on the new show, you're working with Holly Hunter. Was that? What has that been like? Was it intimidating? Was it exciting? Was it all of those things to work with someone like Holly Hunter?
Holly is fantastic, intimidating to a certain extent. I suppose, I am a little bit older now. I am a little. I have worked with a couple of Academy Award winners, so I don't see myself as in her echelon, but I could definitely hope that I can help her do the best job that she can. But she's really lovely and giving and an incredibly hardworking actor. And what I mean by that, she makes it seem so easy and so light and throwaway, but there's a lot of preparation that comes beforehand, which is so much fun for me as an actor, to be able to do rehearsals. I mean, it's not something that you get on a normal show. You don't get to do rehearsals. But I think having Holly there, having Holly always find the time to do the work, because she's such a professional and she's so experienced. Listen, she's off book in rehearsal. She's off book at the table read. It's amazing. And she is such there's no work there. When you're acting with her, you just have to watch out, because what happens to me a lot of times is oh my God, she's amazing. Oh shit, I'm out of the scene. You just need to stay in it, because she is so incredible.
I don't know how much you know about the history of Star Trek, especially during the Next Generation era, but there's this phrase that people use called Badmiral, and the Admiral characters were usually jerks. And they were set up to be annoying to Captain Picard and the like, and like, have you ever worried like they're going to turn you into a villain or, give you a dark side? Are you just open to anything, as it were?
It hasn't happened yet. Listen, I've heard about it. I know. I mean, I was a huge fan of the original first Star Trek and the Next Generation, and it hasn't happened yet. I mean, I love the Admiral Vance. I love the character of Admiral Vance. I love the fact that sometimes he needs to be very harsh. He needs to be very tough. He needs to not be. He needs to do things that many times would make him not the most light character. But he does that within the decision making for the positive, for always trying to find the most positive solution. I love the character for that. Mm-hmm. As long as it works, bring it on. But if they need to at some point turn him into a villain, I don't know. I agree with you. Badmiral is definitely something I've heard many times, but so far we haven't done it. Whatever happens, I trust Alex and Noga and the producers, the writing team to make really great decisions. This show is something I'm very proud of.
Well, for you, I've heard Admiral Zaddy more than I've heard Badmiral.
Yeah, Admiral, and what is it? Admiral Daddy,
Zaddy.
Admiral Zaddy. What is Zaddy?
Oh, Google it. It's a good thing. It means
it's a good thing. Okay,
it means like an attractive man with gray hair, basically. I think.
Oh, okay.
So like a daddy.
Yourself as well.
Thank you very much. Last question, quickly. Were you surprised, or did you expect to be called back for the new show? Because they announced the show and it took about a year or so. Or did they tell you right away?
No, I was hoping to come back for sure. I think I may have reached out, kind of going like, "Hey, I'd be happy to come back." I just love Star Trek. I was always a Star Trek fan. I love the optimism of Star Trek. I love the moral compass of Star Trek. And I think we need a little bit of Star Trek in our lives. I think everybody does. So to be a part of it for me is huge.
Well, can't wait to see more. That was all the time we have. Love to meet.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Tony. Lovely to meet you.
Bye-bye.
I think the only thing I liked better than you having to tell him what a zaddy is was him telling you that you are one also.
It was very nice because this was done over Zoom, so he could see me, I could see him, and I, like him, have a graying beard. Yeah, that was. I'm not sure if I got the definition of a zaddy right.
I feel like a zaddy is a male MILF.
Well, I think a zaddy, it's more than just like an attractive older man. There's a kind of a sophistication, I think, to a zaddy. But what do I know?
Maybe someone who you also think, I guess, would protect you.
Maybe,
like,
yeah.
Who has some like honor and decency, whereas a MILF is just someone who's hot.
Exactly. I rarely fanboy out at the beginning, but as you could tell from that, I gave him a little, I'm so excited to be talking to you because I was. But he was great. And I look forward to learning more. I guess he did answer that kind of nerdy question I had about, where's his office? Like, what's going on? He's because he just keeps on showing up.
Where is he when we don't see him? Yeah.
Exactly. Do you exist when you walk off screen, or do you disappear? So he goes back to his space station, which is somewhere where we don't know where. Obviously, those sets were destroyed to make room for new sets. So I don't think we'll ever be seeing that space station again. At least not these sets.
We don't need to.
No. All right. Do we have any bits of the week?
We do. Well, I have bits. I mean, it's also news, really, which is, so Trek Talks 5, which I've already mentioned, is happening on March 28th. It's a full day of Star Trek panels on YouTube to benefit the Hollywood Food Coalition. This is our 5th year doing it. We do it with it's Trek Movie, Trek Geeks, Sci-Fi Sisters, Roddenberry Podcasts, and the great John Billingsley put this whole thing together, started by Trek Geeks. And we have started to confirm our first few guests and a couple of panels. So I want to tell people about them because they're exciting. One, I'm so excited for this one. We're going to have Gates McFadden and Tawny Newsome together. No moderator, just the two of them. And they're going to be talking about Tawny moving from being a voice actress on Star Trek to being a writer in Starfleet Academy. And we think this has particular resonance for Gates, who fought so hard at the beginning of Next Gen, and in fact was fired for trying to get more involved with the writers and in the writing. And obviously that changed for her on Picard in particular, because Terry was like, let's have a talk about your character, which is great. So things have changed, and I think that conversation should be really interesting. And they're excited. I hear they're both excited about it, so that makes me happy. And we have a panel on the Voyager episode Critical Care. This year we wanted to do some deep dives into episodes, and we're doing a fun one and a serious one, at least for starters. So our serious one is Voyager's Critical Care, because the healthcare situation in America is messy. Understatement of the century. So Robert Picardo is confirmed. Ken Beller, who was one of the writers on the episode, is confirmed. And we have an infectious disease expert who's a huge Trekkie who's going to talk about healthcare, Dr. Elizabeth Hudson.
I look forward to that. When that episode came out, I remember it's like, oh, obviously they're making a comment about HMOs. But it was good, and Trek should do that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And it's still relevant.
That episode is old, and it is still very, very relevant. So I'm excited about that one too. And we have a few other guests that we will be announcing soon. We're having more come in all the time.
Yeah, I'm very much, Trek Talks, this is 5th year. Every year it's great. There's always something to check out, and we'll talk much more about it as we get closer to the release, and maybe we'll have some audio from it. We'll have some articles about it for sure. I don't really have a bit this week, except that I just find it fascinating this week that it became news that William Shatner ate cereal in a car.
Yes.
And so it was
My whole family texted me about it.
Like, how did everyone in America suddenly become aware of the, TMZ takes a picture, it becomes an article, it becomes a meme. I saw pictures. People were photoshopping Captain Kirk eating cereal on the bridge.
Angrily eating cereal on the bridge. Scott Vance posted that on Facebook, and it made me laugh so hard.
And then there was like People magazine there was a picture of Shatner holding a box of Raisin Bran, and now I'm starting to think it was all like, at least that seemed staged. Like that seemed organized. Like, the way he was holding the box, I'm like, did Kellogg's pay for that?
Either Kellogg's paid for it, or he picked up on the joke and decided to continue it. I don't know, because I did say, who was speculating that it was Raisin Bran? I feel like I don't know if it was one of us or online that somebody was like, I wonder if he's just eating Raisin Bran in his car. Which it turned out to be. And it did remind me of him eating soup on stage in Chicago when you were there at the convention. Yes.
Yeah. But I saw there was, there's the talk show. They did a whole segment on it. I mean, it was, this is it, and the man is in his 90s and he still makes news eating cereal in a car, which must be a surreal experience for a human being.
Yes.
So go
and let him eat his cereal wherever he wants. The fact that he's driving is more impressive than the eating the cereal.
Yeah. Clearly, the soup on the stage, clearly he's learned, because he had that health incident, that when he needs his blood sugar to be where it needs to be, he needs to eat wherever he is.
He needs to eat. It makes sense. Yeah. And I guess he likes cereal.
Who doesn't?
I think he likes things in bowls.
That could be it.
Honestly, in a week of terrifying news, that was a high point for me because it made me laugh every time I saw the story.
Maybe we should, if it's too late for Strange New Worlds, but if they had another season, they would have to have a moment where their Captain Kirk eats cereal on the bridge. That would have been great. Maybe some movie can figure that out. All right, that's it for this week. The third episode. We'll be back with episode 4. Does it have a Latin title?
Oh, I'm sure it does.
I'm going to guess it's a Klingon-focused episode.
I'm not going to respond.
Okay. Well, in 1 week, we'll all find out.
There you go. All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.